Hello, everybody. Welcome to Beyond the Arc. Ash and Nicole Moss here. Bill Ryder here reporting from
Yeah,
Barcelona.
let's
Bill,
go.
you live a life. You were telling me Paris, London,
Bounce
Barcelona.
around.
Make a stop in Greece next? Like,
Well,
what's going on here?
it sounds cool. Here's the problem. I was
Uh-oh.
trying to get to Paris for the Olympics and get credential, but they're like, no, man. Bill, I told them, no, I can't do a French. They're actually very nice. The French were actually very nice to me. So I'm
Listen,
close to France for the Olympics.
that might be, the sports gods looking out. There's a lot of chaos going on in Paris right now. The employees in the airports are boycotting. They're losing luggage. The dancers for the opening
They're all
ceremony
mad.
boycotting. They are not happy right now in Paris. So you're safer in Barcelona.
And by the way, I did vet it last week. I went to Paris to vet it to make sure I felt good about it for Team USA, for the podcast, because I'm looking out. And I can tell you that Paris is still a very cool city. So
Yes.
it's good the Olympics are going on there.
I look forward to visiting for my first time next year. But you know who is headed to Paris? Team USA. And that includes LeBron James, who, listen, 39 years old. We talk a lot about LeBron on this podcast. Lay GM. That's kind of French. Lay GM.
Hey, GM.
Lay GM. We talk a lot about him, Bronny, but one thing we always give credit where credit is due when we talk about Bron is his athleticism, his dedication to his craft, and honestly, his superhumanness, if you will, because he has put Team USA on his back at almost 40 years old. I mean, what he is doing, especially in the clutch, has been absolutely phenomenal. He scored the final 11 points for Team USA in their 92-88 win over Germany. We're not even going to talk about what he did the night before, 2 nights before against South Sudan.
Saved them.
That saved them by a point. I mean, LeBron will be 40 in December, and we keep talking about the end of his career, and it's very clear, obviously, he's on the end of his career, but the end seems to keep getting pushed back further and further. And I know Bryce was recently on Instagram Live, and one of the comments was a question like, hey, do you think that you'll be able to play with your dad just like, your brother is? And Bryce goes, no, he'll be 42. That's OD. It may not be.
Maybe.
Bryce, like the way he's playing, it's insane, Bill.
Yeah, he's amazing. Now I've got kind of a theory here about why he's got to show out a little bit. So you can go glass half full or you can go glass half empty on the two exhibition games that we can go right? This is the one time we can go that we, Team USA, let's go America, won.
Talk about the Knicks, so we, Team USA.
You do go I don't. It's the journal. I'm not covered it. I'm not in France, so I can go Look, glass half full, I guess. Good job. You won. LeBron played great. Blah, blah. I think it's a glass half empty situation. I actually think LeBron has a lot to lose here. There's no scenario where USA can do anything other than get gold and not be, I think, Ash rightly criticized aggressively. And as crazy as it sounds, you tell me you think I've lost my mind. I think that winning gold does nothing for LeBron's resume as the greatest of all time. I don't think it moves the needle, even if it should. I think not winning gold, unfairly or otherwise, will tarnish him a little bit. And Jordan supporters who don't want to give him a fair shake will say, this dude couldn't even win gold with one of the most talented teams in the history of men's basketball. And I know these are exhibition games, but I think LeBron coming to the rescue is because he's looking around going, dude, guys, we have to win gold. We can't lose to South Sudan, even though it's a warm-up. Yeah. Germany has Franz Wagner and his brother and Dennis Schroeder and somebody I'm forgetting, Daniel Theis. Like they have one good NBA player and a couple. I think it's crazy these games are this close, and I think LeBron's the hero, Ash, in part because he knows there is no forgiveness for the team, and I think there's a lot to lose for him from an image perspective. If USA goes into Francais, Paris, and doesn't come back, they have to win gold. It's not a good start.
Listen, there's a few things to unpack here, right? I mean, when we talk about, let's say, the Dream Team, for example, I saw a stat this morning. When the Dream Team was in the Olympics, they played against 6 NBA players throughout their course of, quest for the gold. This Team USA is going to face or has already faced 61 NBA players. So for people who don't think that the world has caught up to America when it comes to the talent that is in the NBA, I mean, just look at the discrepancy in the numbers there. Numbers don't lie. And, you can clearly see that the talent of, Team USA is still, I think, a tier or two ahead of their competition. But that gap is getting shorter and shorter every single time we step foot into this Olympic. And I would be very interested to see what it's going to look like in 2028, because right now, Team USA used to blow these teams out by 20, 30. I remember watching these games in high school, middle school, and it was just like an all-star matchup, the Monstars versus the Toon Squad. It was just not even a fair competition. And now these games are getting close. I mean, South Sudan was an exhilarating game to watch. Germany,
but that's crazy.
Australia,
45-point favorites. Yeah.
Australia was close. It was like, I think, a 4-point difference. I mean, this is, I believe, foreshadowing for what this next Olympics is going to look like. And it's going to get harder and harder for Team USA every time these Olympics come around.
It's such a great point. Like, if you look at Team Canada, if you look at their roster, that's a scary team. Like, that's it. They shouldn't beat us, USA, but they certainly can. And I think you're right. I think this is the last, it's not an easy chance. This is the last time that I think USA will be giant favorite. This is the last time that I think it's fair to say you have to win gold or it's a failure. Because in 4 years,
right now, real quick, is minus 450 to win the gold medal.
I mean, and that's the thing. We're going to get into Steve Kerr, who I think has coached like a bum, and Aaron, all the things Aaron, our producer Aaron, has said over the years as a Warriors fan. I mean, I've always believed it, but I'm starting to see it. And I think there's an Embiid versus Anthony Davis starting thing, and we've got Kevin Durant. There's a lot going on. But the reality is that you're absolutely right. The minus 450 just tells you there's still a talent gap that is enormous. There's only a couple teams that I think, maybe one if it's Canada, maybe two, that it can reasonably beat Team USA. That won't be true in 4 years. And I suppose we're going to find out whether these exhibition games are signs of real problems or when the games count, if these guys are just going to try a lot harder and they're going to win.
Think about this. Canada is going to continue to produce amazing talent. Some of the best players, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander,
really good.
France is going to be crazy next Olympics. Not only will you have a more experienced Wemby, Rudy Gobert probably will be on that team because he's still relatively young. You'll have Alexander Sarr, who was recently just drafted. Who even knows who else France is going to give us in the next 4 years? They're putting something in the croissants out there. Australia seems to always give talent. Now, this Australia team could have been even better if you would have had a healthy Ben Simmons on this team. I know they've been drooling at the mouth to get him on the Boomers for years. It just hasn't manifested. I mean, we're not even talking about Nigeria, some of these other. I mean, it's going to be insane this next Olympics, but credit where credit is due. LeBron's playing phenomenal. Anthony Davis has looked phenomenal as well.
He's looked so good
on the floor. I mean, Joel Embiid, who? Anthony Davis is holding down the defense for Team USA. But like you mentioned, it's not all good. There's not all, accolades to go around because Steve Kerr is under fire. And I know our producer, Aaron, cannot wait for this conversation. So when we get back, we're going to talk about the question marks surrounding Golden State Warriors head coach and Team USA head coach, Steve Kerr.
You hear that? It's the steady pulse of the world's game that's turning fans into family and sport into passion. You hear that? It's the heartbeat of American soccer. The USL on CBS Sports Network.
Welcome back, everybody. Ashley here. Bill reporting from Barcelona. I am not. I'm in Miami, which is kind of like Cuba. So I guess, I'm somewhere.
Yeah, you're in a cool, vibrant, international city, too. Miami's awesome.
I read recently that South Florida has the #1 economy in the country. So that's not a
really?
Guys, yeah, #1 economy in the country. So we'll keep coming here, though, guys. We're full. Our traffic starting to look like LA, and I don't like it. Well, listen, Steve Kerr. We've talked about Steve Kerr on this show before in regards to what kind of coach he is. We always have this conversation about head coaches, genius coaches, and kind of just game managers. And where does Steve Kerr fall in that conversation? Well, Team USA 5-0 in exhibition games, so undefeated, but they've looked shaky. Only one real blowout win. And a lot of confusing lineups, rotations. He's sticking with a lineup that a lot of people think is not the best version that we can go ahead and put out there, our starting five. Embiid has been terrible, but Kerr just seems to keep on starting him. Listen, Bill, what do you make of this? Listen, as you said, a lot of talent on this team. So with that, it should be easy to put together a talented starting five and closing five, but Kerr seems to just not want to waver from his guys.
So I'm going to go big picture, and I'm going to go a little detailed. If you're looking for a way, right, a reasonable, 100% foolproof, AI-powered approach to assessing whether a coach is good at their job or not, here's how you do it. If you can find a coach who coaches Team USA and all that talent, and they are 44.5-point favorites to a squad like South Sudan and win by a single point, and then they play Germany, and they coming off that near humiliation, only win by a couple possessions. I looked it up. You suck. You suck as a coach. I'm going hard. Yeah, Aaron's right. I mean, maybe look, the South Sudan thing is an amazing story, and they hooped out. And you and I were talking about this off camera, and you're right. Like, it was impressive what they did. That is a humiliation. That is a huge, flashing red warning light that something is going wrong for Team USA. And to come out a few days later against Germany, that has some NBA players, has 4 guys we talked about, and for that to be a close game, to not just blow them out and say we're USA and we're going to dominate, because Germany's not that good. I think it's a major problem. First of all, Anthony Davis should be starting over Joel Embiid. And we talked about this in the lead up. Embiid's amazing, but he just doesn't fit with the other 4 guys that he's starting with. Secondly, you've got to figure out what to do. Maybe we'll talk about this later with Kevin Durant, because he hasn't played. The injury's problematic. We have an approaching deadline, whether to get him off the team or not. So you're missing firepower that if you were dominating these teams, Ash, you could say it doesn't matter. We can sort of wait for KD in the group stage or even later, but they obviously need him. And then third, the rotations that Kerr is doing, which has always been the huge sticking point for Warriors fans who watch every single game, have been like hockey. I don't watch hockey. Are you a hockey person? What is it like where you just I'm a line change?
I'm a casual hockey fan.
I'm not a hockey fan.
I watch.
It's called a line change?
When the playoffs come. Yeah.
It's like his
substitution change. I don't know. Something like
his rotations don't make any sense. I just, this has been there, Aaron. I'm not a hockey fan. Look, this USA team maybe should have competitive games against Spain if they play Spain, or Canada if they play Canada. But South Sudan's a team you're actually going to play in the group stage next week. And again, it's not just that they're South Sudan. They were 44.5-point favorites and they won by a point. That's a 43-point underperformance against the spread. That's historically awful. And it's and by the way, Steve Kerr wasn't successful 2 years ago in an international tournament that we did not perform well in. It's not like Team USA has done well under his tenure. Since he has taken over, we have been underwhelming and lackluster. We've brought in the big guns for this particular event because it's the Olympics, right? So we've got the Dream Team, the Redeem Team, and whatever you want to call this team. And on paper, I think this team is as good or better than the other 2 teams, but in practice, they've been embarrassing. So yeah, I think there's absolutely a Steve Kerr issue.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
I love Steve Kerr.
Steve Kerr was the head coach in the 2023 World Cup, and we didn't get a gold medal. That was the team that had, Jalen Brunson and some other guys.
Medal at all, I think, right? I don't think we medaled at all.
Full of NBA players. I don't believe we placed at all. Finished 4th.
Yeah.
So yeah, medal. The staff for this Team USA, I mean, we have Ty Lue, Eric Spoelstra, who I am a big fan of, and I know that's taboo to say as a Knicks fan, but the Heat being one of the first professional teams I ever covered, I gained a lot of respect, not only for Spoelstra and his journey, but just his in-game adjustments. He's one of the best in the league at doing it. Mark Few, who is the head coach for Gonzaga, I mean, Kerr is great when you look at him. It's kind of like a Monet. You know what I mean? For people who aren't into art, Monets are really beautiful from a distance, right? And then when you get up close, they're kind of chaotic. They're all over the place. They don't make much sense. They're meant to be viewed from a distance. I think Steve Kerr is a coach who has a lot of glamour and glitz around him because he's coached one of the greatest basketball teams we've ever seen, the dynasty of the Golden State Warriors. But I think when you get up close, I don't know if he's the proper in-game adjuster that you need in situations like this Team USA situation. I think when you're talking about the Golden State Warriors and the dynasty era of the Warriors, you don't need to coach that team much. I mean, this is a team that's just so immensely talented. You just have to not screw it up. But I think when you talk about this and you talk about going against other countries and when you talk about playing different rules, I mean, we're talking FIBA rules here, right? You have to be able to adjust to the course of the game. And I don't know if Steve Kerr is the guy to do that. And I'm actually interested as to why Eric Spoelstra has never been put in this position. I think Coach K, when he coached the teams in 2012, I think 2008, phenomenal coach for Team USA. I just don't know if I put Steve Kerr on that level. And I'm curious as to why Spoelstra has never gotten that call.
So the Monet thing's really interesting. And I'm going to use a soccer comparison here because I called Steve Kerr a bum. And let me gently let me recalibrate what I said. I think Steve Kerr is great at certain things. And I think the things that he's great at work with a actual team where you're with him for 82 games and you have a training camp and you're there for the long term. Building a culture, which is really hard to do with a national team, right? When you is a strength of his. And connecting with players, again, the buy-in in the long term is a strength of his. And the ability to come in and like see sort of from a macro perspective, all right, this is how we have to operate with Steph, and this is how we use Draymond and Clay, and getting those guys to buy in over time was a strength of his. But in-game adjustments is not, as you said. And you're right, Erik Spoelstra is the perfect Olympics coach because you get these guys for a little bit of time in Vegas at camp. Then you fly across the world. In this case, you go to London or wherever you're at, Germany, and you have some exhibition games. And then all of a sudden you're in the Olympics. And so a guy that is a touchy-feely coach who builds a relationship and a sense of family, and that's a big part of the glue. Because for a long time, the Warriors' strength, until Draymond Green punched Jordan Poole in the face, was their locker room and their chemistry and their sort of the brotherhood. And I think that was real, having been around that team in the locker room. And I think Steve Kerr gets a lot of credit for that. You don't do that on an Olympics team. You got a bunch of guys coming from different teams. You have massive egos. You're with these guys for 6 or 7 weeks. You need a tactician who commands immediate respect. I don't think that's Kerr. That was Coach K. And you need somebody who is an in-game general and who's brilliant. I think Erik Spoelstra would 100% be a perfect choice because he's going to come in, he's going to command a ton of respect, and he is going to be an in-game decision maker who's going to be a better in-game chess maneuver and player than the coach on the other side. Steve Kerr's strengths, I think, play out over the course of 3 or 4 or 5 months. You're never going to get that with a national team. I just think he, like Joel Embiid with this group of guys he's starting with, is great at what he does in some scenarios, but he is set up to be his worst version of himself with a national team where you have him for a compressed schedule.
Well, listen, I think that 2028, we're going to see either Ty Lue or Erik Spoelstra being the head coach of Team USA. But right now, it is Steve Kerr. And you can't talk about Steve Kerr and the Warriors without talking about Kevin Durant. And we haven't seen much of him. We're going to discuss why and what the future looks like right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Ashley here, Bill here. And before the break, we previewed Kevin Durant, who has been missing in action from all of these exhibition games. He was supposed to play in the finale, did not. He's been dealing with a calf strain. Now, Steve Kerr was asked about this, and he said that he 100% is staying on the Team USA roster. Bill, you alluded earlier in the show that there is a timeline to make that decision without any shadow of a doubt, because then that goes ahead and restricts or completely eliminates, rather, the option to go ahead and bring in a replacement for Kevin Durant. Now, he is Team USA's all-time leading Olympic scorer. He's practicing, but he's not playing. Now, Team USA's first game is Sunday versus Serbia and Jokic. I mean, listen, I understand Kevin Durant is chasing another Olympic gold medal. I believe outside of LeBron, he's been on the most Team USAs currently on this roster. So obviously he wants another gold medal to add to his resume, but we were talking about this before the show started. There's not going to be much of a break for these guys after the Olympics ends, maybe 3.5 weeks before training camp starts. Then you have the preseason, and then you're back into the groove of the regular season. We already know how bad the Suns looked last season. We already know all of the trials and tribulations that await them this season. I mean, Kevin Durant, Aaron just reminded me here, this would be KD and LeBron's 4th gold medal, most of all time. So obviously you want to go ahead and get that record, that accolade, but you also have to think long-term and think you have a season to play in maybe 2 months when this is all over. What do you do with Kevin Durant?
Yeah, and if you're Steve Kerr, it's not about what Kevin Durant wants or the gold medal that he wants. If you had blown out South Sudan and you had dominated Germany, I think you'd be in a position to say, we can wait on KD. We don't need him. We have so much talent. Let's let him get better. We'll bring him back for the late in the group stage, or we'll bring him back for the knockout rounds, right? I mean, this is a We still have a couple of weeks until you get to some of those games. But Ash, that's not the reality. And so for me, Saturday is the deadline. They have to make a roster decision by Saturday. And obviously we don't know. I don't know how healthy he is. I'm out there covering it. But if Kevin Durant's not 100% to be able to come out and put in the minutes he needs to put in, you have to replace him. You have to, because for all the reasons we've talked about, international basketball has gotten markedly more difficult. This team has underperformed in its exhibitions, and there is no margin for error. You have to get gold. And let me say this too. I love the stars we have.
Would he still get a medal?
No, I think if he's not rostered, I think that he would not get. It's a good question. I don't know. I don't think he would get a gold medal if he's not rostered and doesn't play, because I think they'd have to take him off the official roster before the start of the actual competition and put somebody else on. But the guy that they brought in when they're Derek White, right? Derek White comes in, and he's the last guy on, and Jaylen Brown was amazing in the second half against South Sudan, right? In that comeback. Was the best player on the floor, did all the dirty work, scored critical, hit some big threes, right? I wouldn't mind having another guy who's just going to go out there and do whatever is required to win. But there's no shot at KD. But if he's not able to go, they've got to move on from him. As much as that'll frustrate him, as much as he wants that fourth medal, as much as he's trying with LeBron to set a record, as much as he's earned a lot of respect and love from this country for what Kevin Durant's done in the Olympics, this is not a guarantee that we're going to win gold. We have not performed well. We need every star that we can get. And whether it's Jaylen Brown or somebody else, we need the firepower. And if KD's not 100%, this is another test of Steve Kerr's leadership. And it's hard for Kerr because of his sort of complicated relationship with Kevin Durant. It doesn't matter. You are looking out for not your relationship with KD or how you're viewed by those guys. You are representing this country. And if KD can't play, you have to bring somebody else in.
So before we close, let's answer these two questions. Let's start with this first question. If that is the unfortunate reality for Kevin Durant, which right now right now it's Tuesday. Saturday is what? My math's not great. 4 days away, 5 days away. It's not much time to go ahead and make that decision, right? And it'd be a miracle if his calf goes from what he's been dealing with to 100%. Okay, you're good to go. Who would that replacement be for you? And then also, is there a concern? I mean, right now we're towards the end of July. Guys have been enjoying their off season. Is there a concern that whoever you do replace Kevin Durant with is not going to be ready to go?
So Jaylen Brown is my answer, even though he's another Celtic, and that's going to – I just think everything that he does, the way that he played, and if I can just remind everybody, this isn't, again, based on the premise that these games may be more closer than they should be because of what we've seen in these exhibition games. You need closers. Jaylen Brown was an absolute closer in the finals in the entire postseason. The guy was amazing late in games. I'm going to give you a name. I'm 70% serious and 30% facetious as a backup. I was pitching this before the Olympics. I don't think you can do it the politics of who the coach is of this team. I think Draymond Green would be interesting too. I just think like the defense, go out there and get in people's grill, right? But Jaylen Brown is the person that I would take.
Okay. And then before we close out this question here, I mean, if Kevin Durant is not replaced on Team USA, some may say, look, these games have been as close as they have been because you don't have Kevin Durant on the floor. That's a reliable scorer, one of the best scorers we've ever seen, prolific with the basketball. Him not being on the floor, that absence is felt, and it's only going to be felt more when these games actually count. And now guys are fighting for the bragging rights of their country, the pride of their country, all of those things. The games are going to get harder. They're going to get more physical. Not having Kevin Durant is going to be immensely felt. If Team USA, if Steve Kerr says we are not getting rid of him from this roster, what does that mean for Team USA and specifically for Steve Kerr?
It better mean that he plays, and he plays a lot. And then he plays in the group stage. I mean, he's got to play in, 2 of those 3 games. Here's what I don't know. And I hope this isn't it. Maybe there are certainly people on NBA Twitter and out there who think that Team USA just hasn't tried because they're exhibition games and they don't matter. And they what it around. And once the games count. Right. So, okay, maybe we're going to get into the actual games that count and they're going to win by 30 or 40. And the talk about Steve Kerr is going to look stupid. That's fine. I'll live with that. And Kevin Durant should be replaced. Will look stupid. But we can only go on what we've seen. And what we've seen is Team USA not playing well. So my answer to you is if he's on the roster, he better play games. And you make a good point about the durability of Kevin Durant for Kevin Durant. Like that's not really when it comes to the Olympics, that's not my worry. That's not Steve Kerr's worry. That's Kevin Durant's worry. You know, you have to do its best to win gold, but he has had a history of injuries and he is getting older and it is a lot of wear and tear. And so it's worrisome. I worry about Kevin Durant for Kevin Durant, and I worry about him because we need him. We're not playing well.
You speak about that durability. You speak about the relationship between KD and Kerr. And 2019, CAF kept being problematic for KD. He came back for a game in the finals and tore his Achilles. So
yes,
not quite as carbon copy as 2019, but definitely something. If you are the Phoenix Suns, even if you're Devin Booker, his teammate on Team USA right now, you are kind of watching this one eye open, the other covering, like, oh my God, please don't let anything happen. We need.
Can you imagine if we lose to Serbia? I mean, we could lose to Serbia. I don't think we will.
Yeah, we probably won't, but we could. Crazier things have happened. I think if you do lose, my money's on South Sudan. Did you see the way they're draining threes?
South Sudan is going to get destroyed. I hope I'm wrong. Yes. Yes,
really?
100%.
No, I think they're coming back with a vengeance. That game was close.
They don't have any NBA. They have very few, and they're sort of tangential NBA players.
Yeah. Well,
the best player on the floor is going to. The problem is the best player on the floor is not going to be an American player.
Serbia, yeah.
I mean, he's the best player on earth. I mean, Nikola's the best player on earth. So if we're underperforming, and all those guys, another soccer comparison? But a lot of times when Messi plays in Argentina now, he's not even that good, right? Messi's not even that good. I mean, I love Messi, but he's older. But his team is so inspired by him. You see these videos where they walk out and it's like Messi's a gangster. He's like the Godfather. And
it's now Copa America.
They wait. Right. Serbia is those players in that team, even people a lot of folks haven't heard of, are going to respond the same way playing with Jokic. Like Jokic to Serbia is Messi to Argentina. And so I'm worried that we're sleeping on not just how good he is, people know that, but the response from his teammates. They're going to battle with Napoleon. They get to go and paint with your Monet comparison. We gotta get our shit together. I know I'm not supposed to swear, so yes, we're gonna get our stuff together now.
Listen, you heard it. Bill Ryder said it. We will see Saturday Serbia and Team USA battling out. Jokic faces the guys that he faces all the time in the NBA throughout the course of the regular season, and guys that he dominates a lot of the times, and guys he has dominated before to hoist the trophy for the national championship. Well, the world championship, I should say. The final.
The world championship.
Until then, we will go ahead and revisit that when that happens. For myself, for Bill Ryder, coming to you live from Barcelona. Adios. We'll put that in.
Adios.
Adios. Till next time.